it seems like the Big Ten making the move to go in conference sort of put everybody else on notice of what was going to have to happen.
Well, can we just talk to somebody from the Big Ten instead?
We can. Why don't we bring our guest on the line? Vito, you have a little something for me? We don't have any musical intro. I was going to try and get some Michigan fight song for you, Jeff, but that's okay. We'll bring on our guests. We have Michigan alum, former New York Giant, Amani Toomer, and GVC trustee, Bill Pascrell. On the line, you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Hey, Bill,
Hello?
How you doing? I think we're getting Amani back on right now. Amani, how you doing?
I'm here. I'm doing well. How you doing?
We're doing wonderful. Thank you so much for the time. I'm going to let Jeff take the floor because he's a Michigan guy and he wants to get that out of the way first. So.
Yeah, well, Amani, I got to give out my go blue as I do to every one of our Michigan guests. So I'll get that out of the way to start. But, having followed your career, Amani, the one thing I've watched you at Michigan, I've watched you with the Giants and all the stuff that you did both places. Here's my question. How did you get out of Ohio? How did you not go to Ohio State when you? It was the right decision, but how did you not go to Ohio State when your family went there?
I'm from California, so I didn't really get it. I didn't really know anything about the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry before my high school football coach was like, "Oh, you're going to Michigan, and your dad was at Ohio State." I didn't even know because growing up on the West Coast, it's just it was a little different.
Look at that, Jeff. That's how they got him. You're stunned. Jeff's jaw just dropped. We brought you guys on. You're doing some amazing things. Amani, obviously, you had an unbelievable career on the field. We'll talk a little Eagles Giants at the end of this. But the reason we brought you on is to talk gambling and integrity in sports. And you guys are doing some pretty good things in terms of trying to educate people and bring awareness about some of the challenges out there. Amani, do you want to talk first about what's going on and why you guys decided to do it?
Well, we just felt that it was important because legalized gambling is coming to the States, to make sure that we had a place where people could go if the gambling got for problem gamblers. So that's one of the main reasons why I got involved, because there's a lot of problem gambling that happened, and wanted to make sure that there was a place for people to go.
So, Bill, can you talk about the opportunity that the organization has in terms of raising awareness and capitalizing on the ability for people that will listen to Amani speak about the issue and the situation as opposed to somebody else normally?
Yeah, sure. Jeff and Jason, thank you for having us. I'm a big Blue Giant fan. I was tasked representing the largest online gaming company in the world, GVC, who unusually, remarkably, trailblazing, set up a foundation specifically designed to focus on integrity, compliance, and what we call responsible gaming. I like to call sustainable gaming. This is very unique, and I feel so privileged to have the opportunity to have a great relationship with a guy that was not only great on the field, but is a pillar in the community and responsible socially in the greater community that he's played in. He gives back all the time, not only in this venture, but in many other ventures, talking to young kids, in club sports and in high school and in college. Listen, there's a lot of great players, but there are not many great players that also give back the way Amani Toomer has. So, I approached Amani. We've done some other business together unrelated to sports betting. And Amani has a great story about when he went to Michigan and, what he was taught his freshman year. He is the perfect example, and what my client GVC has tried to replicate, which is showing real integrity, not just grabbing money from people, gambling, but also having a sense of social responsibility. I think it's even more important during these COVID times. And GVC, through the leadership of Amani Toomer and Martin Lichka, who is the head of regulatory affairs at GVC, the three of us make up the trusteeship of GVC Foundation US, We're creating a gambling institute, which Amani has spoken at, and so have I and Martin at Seton Hall Law School. We're JV'd with Harvard Medical School to do a study, a very expensive study funded by GVC Foundation to study gambling addiction, not just in the COVID era, but all in all. The sports betting industry in America is in its nascent form. We just started. We're only 2 years into this once the Supreme Court ruled that PASPA was unconstitutional. And so it's a privilege for me to be able to represent a client like that, be able to work with Amani collaboratively, and really go out. I mean, if it wasn't COVID times, Amani and I would be on, the trail, hitting colleges in every state that has legalized gambling for sports betting to educate and advocate for the fun and hospitality of sports betting, but also some of the trouble that can occur. And we feel that Amani's the kind of guy that could grab the attention.
Amani, can you talk about, Bill mentions that the story at Michigan when you went there. Can you talk about your own experience sort of learning what not to do and how you want to kind of play that forward?
Yeah, I just remember one of the first things they teach you is you get in there and they teach you about not getting involved in any type of gambling thing. He says there's a lot of things you can chance for in sports, but if you get caught gambling and doing anything in that area, they really career doesn't really last that long. So it really scared it into you really early, and I thought that was good for them to let us know what was going on and make sure that we were taken care of.
Amani, one of the things about teaching this to college students is for the university, but it's also for the players, the student athletes. How important is it to get the message across about how this could impact student athletes as early as middle school and high school and college?
Excuse me, what was your question?
So how important is it to get the message across to younger kids that we talk about this in, the universities are concerned about this, obviously, but this is also about the student athletes, about the kids themselves. And how important is it to get to the kids early to discuss this with them, with the more prevalence of gambling?
Well, I just think the education, letting them know the possibilities of what could go right, what could go wrong, and just letting them know that it's a slippery slope if you're not very careful, and to be aware of different things, educating them to different kind of motivations of people that might be giving to them. So, yeah.
Bill, can you talk from a legislative legalization standpoint? I know that there were hearings in Congress today. Lindsey Graham was doing some things. Where are we going next with this? You hear about potentially in-stadium betting, different propositions and odds. How do we get a handle on what the playing field is going to look like so then you can figure out what help people will need?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I am hopeful that Congress will stay out of this. Gambling has always been regulated, much like automobile insurance and other issues to the states. The states have gotten it right. The state of New Jersey, where Amani and I live, have gotten it superbly right in terms of the way they set up the regulatory structure. What this foundation is designed to do is to prevent what we've seen from our brothers and sisters across the pond in Europe, where in the UK and in Scandinavian countries and in Germany and Italy, there have been huge problems, massive problems with problem gambling. There was no focus or attention on it. So we're trying to prevent that from happening. But I also think that sports betting, which is now legal in approximately 20 states, all of those states don't have online sports betting. Most of them are retail-based. So far, we haven't had any issues of consequence. Obviously, there's concerns about match fixing. There's concerns about big gaming companies preying on the vulnerable, particularly our veterans, our elderly, and the young. And so we're trying to put a flag in the ground and say that, yeah, we are a gaming company and we make money off of people gambling and the hospitality we provide, but we're also trying to be socially responsible. I think Congress would be very foolhardy to try to regulate an industry. We fought that battle in the U.S. Supreme Court, through the Federal District Court, Judge Shipp, through the Third Circuit Appellate Division in the U.S. and in the Supreme Court. And all of the leagues fought us vociferously because they wanted to make coin off it. And we were successful. And this has been relegated as a states' rights issue. And I'm hoping that Congress, which can't get out of their own way and balance a budget or take care of us in these COVID times, they shouldn't be screwing around with sports betting. The states are where it should be at. It's a good regulatory patchwork. And I feel confident that we're going to continue down that pathway.
Yeah, Bill, one of the issues that you mentioned earlier is that you saw from Europe that there were some problems. What exactly did you see in the European sports arena that concerns you and is concerning to you that might come over here that you're trying to avoid?
Yes, Jeff. It was more in terms of the gaming industry than it was in the professional sports industry. And it was just a sort of no belts and suspenders on the industry. It was just a land grab, if you will, to acquire players, to not be concerned about players, meaning gamblers, punters, and their behavior. And the one thing that many legislators in state governments across the country are getting educated about, New Jersey has been ahead of the curve on, is this is the way, online sports betting, the best way to regulate responsible gaming and gambling addiction. Because, if the four of us, walked into a casino in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, we show our ID and we go up to the table and we could drop whatever we want to drop as regularly and as recklessly as we wanted to. But in online gaming, all your transactions are tracked, not only by the regulators, but by the gaming houses. And the gaming houses are concerned about, stories leaking out about, reckless gamblers and these companies preying on them. So it's sort of a prophylactic approach to prevent that from happening, which really has mushroomed in the UK. The UK, England had a great relationship with the gambling industry until about a few years ago, because there's been such a proliferation of gambling addiction, because there were no belts and suspenders. There was no really kind of modifiers for self-preclusion, for what's called software blocking, bank blocking. Amani and I are involved with Martin Litchka at the foundation to do the three-part comprehensive stool for preventing gambling addiction. Number one, having a self-preclusion list nationally that regulators can share with each other. Number two, software blocking, so that, and Amani and I are going to be talking to professional teams and collegiate teams across the country to say, you know what, all your players should have their phones blocked. They should not be permitted to go down that slope, particularly first year, second year, and in the pros and freshmen. And finally, we're approaching the banking industry to say, you're going to give a home loan to somebody. You should be very concerned about their gambling behavior, and you should regulate it. And one of the ways to regulate it, which also helps prevent the black market, which is called bank blocking. So that if you have a home loan or any other type of loan, you can have a blocking software put on your device for very de minimis charge, like a few shekels a month, that will prevent you from going on legal and illegal sites. Because we know there's still a huge proliferation of black market gambling, even in regulated venues like Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Amani, when you go talk to student athletes and athletes in general, what's the main message that you get across to them?
Just to be aware of what could possibly go wrong. Just the information that you can give the kid to fight off all the different things that might be coming at them. So that's kind of, I just think I would just let them know that it's out there, it's here, and not to and just to know, be really aware of your surroundings.
I mean, look, as somebody who has partaken in the past and decided to eventually stop, the integrity of the sports themselves are at stake. You can't have athletes or people associated with teams having those questions raised where somebody says, well, why did that happen? What did that mean? Amani, I saw you talk about how gaming should be entertainment, not a coping mechanism. Can you talk a little more about that? Because, I mean, there are a lot of pressures on athletes, and there is a lot of scrutiny now. The athletes, the outlets they have are few. Can you talk about some of that?
Yeah, no, I just, I'm sorry, what was the beginning of your question again?
You've talked about gambling should be for entertainment purposes for people, not for as a coping mechanism.
Entertainment.
Athletes themselves have their own challenges in terms of coping. Can you talk about why it's important that they don't specifically get caught up in this as a coping mechanism to jeopardize their own future?
Yeah, because sometimes competitiveness can go too far, and you got to know when to turn it on and turn it off. Because when you get trapped in competitive in these gambling sites, it could be very bad. So I just feel like you really got to make sure that they understand, they know all the things that could be coming at them, and know what to steer clear of, really.
Amani, you talked about the competitiveness of being an athlete. What's it been like for you going away from the football field and moving on to your new endeavors? Has it been hard, or is it something that you found something, or athletes should be able to find something to replace the competition side of their lives?
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can compete other than, I just feel like I took up, jiu-jitsu. I started, riding my bike to try to be competitive. There's always a lot of outlets to be competitive, and that's really what made it easier. So trying to move my focus from football to other things, and that really opened up a lot of things. And I was really lucky to have people around me to support me in that time.
Well, guys, we wish you the best of luck with the effort. I hope you keep us updated and try and keep raising awareness for having some integrity around sports and gambling, and putting some bumpers on that so it doesn't go out of control. Thanks so much for the time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.